Hey guys, it's Anime K-Man. Today I'm going to be reading the 33rd episode of Gegege no Kitarou. And gotta say, this episode is, at the very least, a step up above the previous episode. Because while the previous episode was still a smidge bit above average, it didn't have the emotional punch that this week's episode had. So I like it. Because Gegege no Kitarou is either at its best when it's either pumping badass with action, or it's at its best when there's like some kind of like emotional element into it. Like say the Hell Train episode or the Sunriko episode or the first few episodes of the Western Yokai. So I kind of like that because I like how this episode, for the start, it kind of throws a curveball by making the Hakusando wolf yokai seem like some kind of savage badass. And it was doing a great job of building up expectations. And then aside from that, I like how throughout this whole episode, it even showed a bit more facets of Kitarou's episode, because I like how during this episode, you even have the father of Yoi explain that he actually signed a contract with Hakusando to get a good amount of fortune. But the thing is, he did that and he had to like give up his daughter as like a bride to the wolf yokai. And I kind of like how you have that little twist where Kitarou's like, I ain't on no one's side and you signed a contract. And when he was like, oh yeah, that burial falls tomorrow morning, I was like, damn. But at the same time, it fits in with Kitarou's episode, going in like some of the previous episodes where if humans dig their own grave or they fuck up in regards to their own devices, then they deserve everything they get. So I kind of like that no-nonsense attitude that Kitarou has. Because he treats yokai the same way, where if they do something that gets themselves into trouble, he lays the law at them. And when humans fuck themselves over, and he also lets the law be laid down on them. So I like that little facet of Kitarou's episode. It gives him like kind of like a scary ass vibe, but in like a good way. So I like that little bit of characterization from Kitarou. And then simultaneously, I like how this episode even gave him a bit of character development near the end, where here's like, alright. Like, because when you had the Hakusando yokai and Yayoi actually be in the wood and you see Kitarou smile, I was like, Nani? I was thinking that. I didn't actually say that in live reaction, but I was like, Nani? Because it's always nice to see Kitarou smile, and I like how slowly that cynicism of humans and yokai can't coexist, it's slowly dying. I mean, we saw that in the Asuki episode where that was slowly going away, and now in this episode we see that kind of barrier just keep on breaking down even more, and I like that. It gives Kitarou subtle bits more of character development, and while I wish they would show Kitarou do a casual activity that doesn't involve kicking someone's ass, you know what? I'll take that. It isn't what I want the most, but that was good. And then, aside from that, I like how this episode was also strong from a character standpoint when you had Agnia's character to actually progress a bit. Because I like how it's showing how her interacting with humans like Mana is actually changing her and interacting with Japanese yokai. Because, let's just say, if the Agnias from like when she was first introduced in the Western Yokai arc, the Agnias that fucking did that voodoo shit on Kitarou, if that Agnias would have been in this episode, she'd be like, I'm gonna kill Yayoi. Fuck that shit. Humanity versus the life of one or two humans. And that's what that Agnias would have done. And I like how in this episode, while it was subtle, we got a fuckload of character development, because she was like, because for a second she was thinking about it, and that's really natural, because when that many lives are weighed, you do think about that shit. But when she decided to just let Yayoi live, and then she decides to go for the ring through other methods, I like that. It makes her character much more better. It makes her feel much more nicer, and it's nice to see that some of the mana is rubbing off on Agnes, so that's nice too. How her personality is being shaped. It's gonna make me care even more about her in case something bad happens to Agnes or if she succeeds. So that's another good thing. When it came to character development, this episode was spot on and I fucking loved it. And aside from that, Hasanda was pretty cool. I didn't really think they were gonna make me like this yokai because they were making him build up to be some kind of douchebag that like eats humans. But then when it's revealed that he actually beat the previous Haskando that was eating people, and that he legitimately did love Yaoi and was like taking all these stab wounds, I was like, damn, the episode really won me over. So really, from a character standpoint, this episode was like a 10 out of 10. Not gonna lie. From an art standpoint, animation standpoint, this episode kind of fell apart. Now, from the art standpoint, there were a few moments where like you had some distant shots of Agniesz's feet, and they were like on the dirt zone where they looked like little sticks. And then there was like a scene where Kitarou punches one of the yokai, and it's like literally a still shot, and because they don't show the yokai being punched like this. It's like this, but with like just a sound effect, and it kind of makes the fight scene less invigorating. Or when Haskanda was being stabbed, it didn't show like the knife slowly chipping away. It just showed like the scratch mark, as if the animators were like having shortcuts. And you know what? It was really noticeable this episode that our animation was kind of subpar. I really didn't stick up to last week, because at least last week's episode, while I didn't have the best animation, at the very least they had mesmerizing art quality. This episode didn't even have that. So from an art animation standpoint, didn't do so well. And then from a story standpoint, it didn't do so well, because there were instances where Haskanda was being stabbed, and throughout, you could even see the live reaction. I was even saying, Agnes just used a flame spell. Or why don't you just get on your broomstick and fly away so that Haskando could take on that yokai by himself, and he doesn't risk his livelihood, because most of the stabs was because he was trying to protect Yayoi. So I felt like the writers should have like maybe framed it a bit so that Agnes could have get Yayoi on the broomstick way earlier, and you wouldn't have to go through this BS of making it seem like Annie is just watching Haskando getting stabbed, and then be like, you know what, I'll just use the flame sword, push. And then you have Sandwich doing some stupid shit where she has a deli, one of the most powerfulest Western yokai we have seen, that has caused fucking trouble to Kitarou in literally the second Western yokai episode. She paralyzes that yokai in sand, and I was thinking, oh shit, is Sandwich gonna go for the kill? Is she maybe gonna do some kind of sand seal, or maybe try to suffocate Adeli with like maybe putting some sand in her throat and maybe having her die through suffocation, Adeli? But no, Sandwich just stands there and just lets Adeli escape as if this is some Pokemon bullshit, as if there were no consequences, even though a few episodes ago, these Western yokai are fucking shown capable of permanent deathing yokai. So it's like, from a story standpoint, it felt like the writers just forgot, and just certain shit slipped off their minds. And that's why normally these type of episodes, I'd give them like 9s or 10s or 8s, but I can't give it that kind of score because of that kind of shit. You just think about that shit, because on a rewatch, it's gonna be super noticeable. Hell, I caught it on the first watch. And that's why this episode isn't as strong as it could have been. But everything else it did was fine. At the very least, from a character standpoint, it was powerful. And that wet scene between Yayoi and Haskando was pretty beautiful. Seeing everyone smile. And it made the episode good despite that. Because for me, I care more about the characters than art and animation. And while I care about characters and story around the same amount, this series, for the most part, is mostly consistent, so I'm not going to nag it too much. And I'm going to give this episode still a brand spanking 7 out of 10 from my review scale. Only thing keeping it from an 8 or 9 is those inconsistencies I mentioned. But other than that, this episode is still above average because it mostly did everything else right, and I'm not gonna knock it just because of that shit right there. So anyways, guys and gals, comment out your thoughts on the episode below in the comment section. Rate the video. Subscribe if you want to see more guitar reviews or reactions. And I'll see you guys next week if you subscribe for more live reactions and reviews. Alright, guys. Have a good and safe day. Bye.